Given the huge and growing pension liabilities of the city, Steve, how do you foresee balancing the city's budget with the prospect of shrinking revenues and increasing need and demand for services?
Okay, well, the two big things that are facing our city right now are the loss of revenue from the Miami Beach Convention Center and the escalating city pension crisis. Right now, how many people here know that you can work 20 years for the city of Miami Beach and then retire with a pension of 90% of your salary for the rest of your life? It's true. It's true. The police and the fire department can do that. And the way they average it is you take your top 2 years of how much you've worked, the top 2 years, not the whole years of the 20 years that you've worked, the top 2 years, so somebody can really work hard those 2 years and bill time and a half, so they can increase their salary up for those 2 years and take that salary with them for the rest of their life. Then when they retire, they can go over to the city of Miami, take another job, and double dip. Our city's just not sustainable right now when $50 million out of our $250 million budget is going to city employee pensions. They need to be renegotiated, otherwise our city is going to be broke. Now, everybody deserves a pension. Right? When people say, oh, you know, the police department and the fire department, they risk their lives. And you're right, they do risk their lives. But so do the Marines, so do the Navy, so do the Army, so does everybody else, and they only get 50% of a pension. So right now, we're just not sustainable with the amount of pensions that we're giving out to all of our employees, and it needs to be renegotiated to something more reasonable for our city to continue to be sustainable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It is true that you get 90% of the pension. That was a question that I found out. But you don't get it right away. You get 3% every year that you work for the city of Miami Beach. At the end of 27 years, after you work 27 years, then you get the 90% if you last that long. The average of people that work that long is very small. I wanted to bring it, but they didn't give it to me because I have never looked at that average, which is a good number. It is true that the pension cost is high, but it's we have worked through the negotiations. Every employee in the Department of Police is giving us back after the negotiation for the first time that we did this year, and they're giving back over $9,000 per employee, the firemen $13,000 per employee. So we froze no COLA, which means it helps over for $20 million for that money that Steve has spoken that we have to pay for retirement. This is not a deficit. We have a balanced budget. So much so that in this economy that everybody is suffering, our bond rating went up. One of the few cities in the nation that the bond rating went up.
This is another example of how out of touch this administration is. I'm a former Wall Street analyst. I know what goes into a bond rating. And it's based on two things. I wasn't a bad Wall Street analyst. I was an investment manager. I've been using some money managers. I was a good Wall Street analyst. I know what goes into a Moody's bond rating. It's really two things. It's the ability of the city to tax you to death, which this administration has proven since they've raised their taxes every year for the last 4 years, and nobody's complaining much. Two, it is true. Read the Herald. It is true.
We have lower taxes for the last 12 years.
That's absolutely not true. There's a chart, 2 Sundays ago, there's a chart in Miami Herald that documents year to year, and you can go to my website as well. The second factor in that Moody's bond rating, thank you, sir. The second factor in that Moody's bond rating is revenue. We don't have a problem with revenue. Per capita, we should be, and we could be, the wealthiest city in the world. We have a tremendous revenue. We have tremendous tourist revenue. The problem is all the corruption and wasteful spending, eradicating every single dollar of great revenue that we have. Now, in terms of the pension, the answers are simple. We eliminate all overtime for pension liabilities, and we don't, the most important point is this, thank you, the most important point is why don't you file one for mayor? Okay, the most important point is this. Well, he took 20 seconds. We've been missing the forest for a few trees, and that is the reason the pension liabilities are out of control is because the base salaries have been out of control for too long. If you bring the base salaries back down to private sector reality, lo and behold, the pension liabilities won't be so bad anymore.
and bad taste in our mouth. And the proof is that it had been a revolving door with directors, because we keep trying to see what happened. We just have hired a new director, and his task again to fix the building department's problems that we have. It is attitude. Now, if there is extortion out there, will you please tell those people to come and speak to me, because I need to have, I need to have that proof so that we can take it to the state attorney. Last time somebody came, we provided 2 detectives to the state attorney, and we got them, and they're in jail, and we fired them. So this is a very bad accusation that only if we get the help from the people that are being extorted, we can prove it.
Thank you. Steve?
All right, well, obviously I'm not going to be here the only person saying the building department's awesome. I mean, I have an objection to this format. I mean, who's writing these questions? All of us are going to say the building department needs reform, and we're boring our entire audience right now. Well, that's a good question. I tell you one thing. I think the city needs to get behind more events, more cultural events. I mean, like I said earlier tonight, the South Beach Food and Wine Festival, Art Basel, they're incredibly successful events. We need to add more events to that. Veterans Beach Weekend would be phenomenal for military veterans around the country. Perhaps we can do a Cuban American Festival weekend. Perhaps we can do a Jewish Entertainment Festival weekend. Let's get the city behind sponsored events, encourage more culture, because Miami Beach is awesome. Thank you.
I think Miami Beach has been a leading force on every cultural event here, the Bass Museum, the Wilsonian, the getting behind everything that Steve has said, because we believe that culture is the soul of the city, and we are standing behind it. Can we do more? Sometimes, but we need to first create a good city, and to first take care of our residents, and then we will continue bringing events that are good for the city.